Previously on Behind the Short.
Kind of annoying having that focus wheel just kind of taunting you, saying, "Oh, look at me, look at how cool I would be if I would just work." DJI finally released the Ronin-S Focus Motor, so my little DJI finally released the Focus Motor for the DJI Ronin-S, and today we're going to attach it and we're going to go check it out.
Review.
So what are my thoughts about the Focus Motor? Let's start with the actual assembly of putting this thing together and mounting it to the Ronin-S. Why the f would they? The instructions were slightly confusing considering some of the parts needed to attach the Focus Motor to the Ronin-S weren't included with the actual Focus Motor, they were included with the Ronin-S. These parts are found in the pouch that are included with the Ronin-S, which I kind of forgot about since DJI was really quiet on the accessory front for this device for a long time. For instance, this little riser plate and these threading mounts. The instructions make no mention of them being included with the Ronin-S, and I kind of forgot about them since the pouch has been basically useless. After figuring this out, the assembly went a little better, but I had to figure out how to mount the camera riser to the actual quick release plate, and that wasn't even mentioned in the instructions. To do this, you'll use one of the extra threading mounts that comes in your Ronin pouch, screw it into the quick release plate so you now have two mounts on it, then you'll line the mounts up with the holes on the riser plate, screw them in, and voila. Once I had everything put together and the Ronin balanced, I turned it on in order to calibrate the motor. I didn't realize there was a specific way you had to attach the gear ring to the lens. When I'd calibrate or pull focus, the gear would keep getting stuck on everything and it would throw it all out of whack. So I had to take the gear ring off of the lens, flip it, and then that solved the problem. Now, let's look at the build quality. The motor itself and the rails have a really nice, high quality, durable, heavy duty feel to them. The gear, on the other hand, feels pretty flimsy. But when you have it attached to the lens and you have the motorized wheel up against it, it's really solid then. Since I use primarily Canon photography primes, such as the 50mm 1.4, the 28mm 1.8, the gear feels ever so slightly loose and can slide up and down pretty easily, which isn't a good thing in a follow focus. You want the gear to fit snug against that lens and not move. With fatter lenses like the 24-70 2.8, I think that the gear would fit a lot better. The power cable that runs from the Focus Motor to the Ronin was very hard to fit into the port, and I was really worried that I was going to break some of the pins off inside of the port trying to force it in. As for the operation, you do have to calibrate the motor every single time you turn this thing on, which is pretty annoying. If you have cinema lenses with a hard stop and start point, then it's as easy as auto-calibrating the motor, which you can do simply by double tapping the function button on the motor or on the side of the focus wheel. If you have photography lenses like I do that just keep turning, you have to calibrate the start-stop points manually each time. You can do this by physically holding and stopping the lens while it's auto-calibrating. The motor features one button that can control the focus, the iris, and the zoom. If you're using a zoom lens, you can switch the gear to the zoom and use the wheel to operate the zoom instead. Or if you're running a cinema lens and you're going from bright outdoors to dark indoors, you can use the wheel to do an iris pull. As for the operation itself, the Focus Motor and wheel turn buttery smooth as expected. Butter! And it's really nice that you don't have to rely on a camera with autofocus to utilize focus pulls on a gimbal. The Focus Motor works really nicely, but there are several downsides to it. First off, the Ronin is already heavy enough, and while this doesn't really add that much weight to it, it does force us to use one of our hands to pull focus rather than holding the gimbal with both hands, which can really put some strain on your forearm. Second, if you're pulling focus off your camera's LCD, it can be really difficult to tell if your subject is completely sharp. So a camera with focus peaking or attaching an external monitor to the Ronin are imperative in my opinion, and adding an external monitor to this setup is just gonna add a lot more weight. Third, there is some slight motor noise, which could be problematic if you're running a setup that requires an external microphone on top of the camera. But if you're not, the motor noise isn't that loud and is not gonna be an issue. Overall, I think this is a really great product and well worth the $180 price tag, especially if you've already invested in the Ronin-S and you don't have a camera that has autofocus. I'm not entirely sure how much I'll use the focus wheel, since a lot of the times I do have a camera with autofocus, but it's nice to know that I have this in my bag in case I do need it. That's gonna do it for this week's episode. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below, and then tune in next week for more behind the short.